Good evening, Internet. The year is 2021, January 2nd, 10:23 p.m. And when this podcast hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious shit. My name is Dr. Clyde M.F. Jones, and this is Pop Cult Parenting. And today, we're talking about Back to the Future. I'm joined here today with...
Mark. What up, everybody? This is Niels R.Y., aka nephew of Mayor Goldie Wilson.
All right, and this is Shannon Smith, aka the Flux Capacitor Master. That's all I got.
There you go. No, hey, it's working. It's working. It's better than that Doc Brown voice.
I don't got the best Doc Brown, man. That was my best Doc Brown, but hey, what are you gonna do? Maybe I'll do Marty the whole. Geez.
That was great. That was great. Yo, not many people can pull off the eccentricness of Christopher Lloyd.
No. But yeah, guys, we're talking about Back to the Future because not the franchise, but the first movie turns 35 years old in a couple days. Crazy to think about, but it is it is a pop cultural icon. I don't think I've ever met someone who hasn't seen Back to the Future, and then I don't think I've ever met someone who doesn't like Back to the Future. But we thought, since we finally got out of 2020 unscathed, we made it to the other side. Let's look towards the future, and we're going to talk about Back to the Future. We're going to talk about cultural appropriator Marty McFly. But
yes,
exactly. Well, we'll get to that. But Nels, you wanted to start us off with some information.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited. One that we're going to talk about Back to the Future. If y'all remember on the Huso episode of Pop Cult Parent, actually, I don't even know if this made the cut. Well, you have to listen to that episode and tell us if it did, Internet. One of the first questions I asked somebody to see if they really down in this pop cult world like we would be is if they seen Back to the Future. Because 9 times out of 10, if someone hasn't seen Back to the Future, then they also haven't seen Star Wars, or they also haven't seen like all of the Godfathers. Like they haven't seen like the movies that you would just expect people to have seen. I don't know what it is about Back to the Future, but this one movie is like the perfect thermometer to see if someone's a movie head or not. It is the perfect thermometer. Husto actually broke it down in the episode and said the reason that Back to the Future is the perfect thermometer is because it has a little bit of everything. Like the original Back to the Future, it's kind of a fantasy like movie, but like it's also like the only fantasy is like they go back in time, they come back in time, and there's lightning. It's kind of action, but not really a lot of action. It's kind of adventure, but it's not really a lot of adventure. So like it is the perfect thermometer to see like if you like Back to the Future, I mean, who don't like Back to the Future? But like if you've seen that, you've probably seen everything. But anyways, back to some fun, interesting stuff about Back to the Future. I'm sure you all know this, but Back to the Future came out in 1985. Back to the Future made all the money. This budget was $19 million. It made close to $400 million. It was the biggest movie in 1985. Its only competition was movies that had Sylvester Stallone in it. And it beat all of those movies.
Is that $400 million with inflation?
Oh, no. That's
85 money? That's 85
That's
money?
85.
Woo!
Close to $400 million. Yeah. Yo, this is a big movie. They made a lot of money. And the sequels made, like Back to the Future 2 made $300 million. So like, we're talking, this is some serious money that Back to the Future made. A couple, like, I think what we'll do now is talk about some fun facts about Back to the Future, and some interesting things that I'm sure the fellas will find interesting, and I think the pop cult will find super interesting. So the big thing I wanted to share with y'all. Well, there's a couple of things that I wanted to share with y'all. One, the director is Robert Zemeckis. We have done over 25 episodes of Pop Cult Parenting. We probably mentioned Robert Zemeckis about 3-4 times because Robert Zemeckis is Robert Zemeckis. The man made Forrest Gump. Like, what is there not to say about Robert Zemeckis?
No, you gotta say it. Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump.
The reason I'm mentioning Robert Zemeckis so many times is he actually really wanted to make this movie for a while, but the Universal said they were like, "Nah, we don't trust you enough. There's too much this and that about this movie. I don't know about it." So he had to kill the movie that he directed called Romancing the Stone in order to earn the trust from Universal to actually do this movie. And he did. I mean, Romancing the Stone's a super old movie, but excuse me, it's not super old, but it's a good movie. It's got Michael Douglas in it. There ain't really much else you need to know. But it's a good movie. He did a great job, and they trusted Robert Zemeckis, and it was the best thing that the company ever did because Back to the Future is one of the biggest movies that ever came out of Universal. Another thing is the Back to the Future won Oscar. Fellas, what of all the awards that the Oscars have, what award do you think Back to the Future won? I'm curious on what y'all think. In 1985, it won one.
It won. I'm gonna say for sound.
Yeah.
Okay. Sound design.
Mine would be special effects.
Special effects. Both good guesses. If you were to ask me, I was gonna be like, "Oh, score," because this score is amazing.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, you were the closest. It was sound editing.
Oh, okay. Well, no, it's funny because in my notes, I was going to say the DeLorean sound effect is like probably top 10 most iconic sound effects of all time. It's like up there with the lightsaber. You know what I'm saying? Like the upload and like the proton packs. You know what I mean? Like it just like, I don't know how they came up with that, but it's just, it when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's the time machine. That's the DeLorean.
Let's see if you bastards can do 90.
The sound editing, obviously, the sound editing was fantastic, but the score of Back to the Future is phenomenal. I mean, the technology, Shannon, to your point, is phenomenal. Even in the first one, the second one is bananas for 1989, but the one in 1985 was fantastic. So I thought it was interesting that they only want one else for sound editing, but take it for what it is.
Fun little fact. The score of this movie actually won me $100 one time. So to go back, this is college days, Mark. And I don't know if y'all schools did they had little things they called them up all nights or whatever. It was to persuade people not to go out drinking. So they'd have little things or games or stuff that people could do on Saturday, Friday nights.
Yeah, and people would go out, get drunk, and then still come
and
back
then show up. Yeah. So I went to one time, and it was like a trivia night. So I went up there. It was me and two other people, and they were asking all kind of pop culture questions. And it came down to me and this one girl. We were just back to back. We had a tied score of 100 something, right? It was
Mark, hold on. Sorry. I'm just picturing this moment. What year were you in school? This was your freshman year, right?
No. This was probably my junior year.
This is your junior year. You done crossed already by that point.
Yeah.
So this is you were like, Mark, I'm doing well in school. People are starting to get to know me. I just crossed. and then there's a pop culture trivia, and you just got there and you're like, yo, this is my time to shine.
This is my domain. This is my time to shine.
I have finally arrived on campus. I can only imagine you're like, yo, nobody in this room can stop me.
No, I'm surprised the girl gave me as much competition as she did. Though I thought I was like, I'm winning this money. I'm winning, and the grand prize was like, it was $100. So
you went into the competition like, I'm about to win $100.
Oh, dog! I went up there with like the utmost confidence. Like I walked up to that thing like that meme of Vince McMahon. He's coming out, he's like, and his arms are flinging. You know, I was like, oh, this is it. This is my moment. But it was like 8 Mile. You know.
Yes.
You know, Cheddar Bob came out and told me they were calling my name. I threw up my spaghetti. You know what I'm saying? But so you know, we're going back and forth, and it comes down, and so we're tied. It was like 3 people, and me and the one girl were tied. And so the guy was like, well, you know, he's like, I never had to do this before, but we're gonna have a sudden death round. And so he's like, all right, whoever gets this question wins. And he's like, name the dog in this movie. And it played like the first couple notes of the back there, like the little xylophones, like. Da-da-da-da. And I was like, dude, Einstein. and he was like, dog, he was like, no one's ever gotten that right before. And he's like, how did you know that? I was like,
he's like, and you just met Mark Jones. Yeah. Drop the mic, give me my money.
No, he acted like I like solved like the anti-matter equation or something. Like I was like, dog, it's Back to the Future. The dog, they say the dog's name like 12 times in the first 15 minutes. Like I don't know Einstein, but so Back to the Future won me $100
that he probably spent drinking.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know what I did with that money, but yeah, probably. It wasn't, I didn't put no use to it. No good use to it.
After the all-nighter, then went straight to the, well, I was going to say the ABC store, but that's, I don't know, do y'all have, in the South, they were the ABC store. It was like the whole liquor store. So.
No, yeah, we got ABCs here.
Yeah, went straight there.
So another interesting fact, which wasn't really well known back in the day, but is pretty well known now. Although Michael J. Fox was always the person that the directors wanted to have play Marty McFly, Eric Stoltz was the person who was originally casted and actually did 5 weeks of filming for like the role of Marty McFly. But after the 5 weeks, they were like, nah, like we really need Michael J. Fox. So they got Michael J. Fox, delayed the film because they had to make up the 5 weeks of shooting, having him play the character of Marty McFly.
Dog, if I was Eric Stoltz, that would have broke me. That would have broke my heart. Like 5 weeks? 5 weeks?
That's a month.
That's like a trial period.
Yeah, because like what do you even get after that? Because like, you know, you're not going to be that actor, so you don't get that pay for that. No,
he got paid, Shannon.
He got paid,
but for some of it though, like he didn't get paid like Michael J. Fox did for the role. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but then for the success of this movie, after they to get kicked off the movie to replace you, and then the movie is like the biggest movie of all time during that time. It's got to be some heavy drinking after. And in 1986, there's got to be some heavy drinking going on.
But you got to think about this, Mark. He was like, the hell probably happened when the movie came out and he saw the success. But the hell was probably really those 5 weeks. Because he went to work every day and they were just sitting there watching the dailies, just looking at him like, he ain't it. Like he's probably working his butt off. He got to work with crazy old Crispin Glover, who's acting wild. Christopher Lloyd, who is improvising every other line, and he's trying to give them all. And then every time he just looks, trying to see how the producers are feeling, how the director's feeling, how the writer's feeling, and they just looking back at him like, nah.
Well, yeah, man,
every day for a month and some change. He's looking at for their approval, and they're just like, "You ain't the one, boss." Dude, he was probably grateful after they're like, "Oh, you don't want to go with me no more? I don't want y'all no more. Fine, I'm sure you
Dog, to think about that, I'm thinking if they rarely do they film movies in chronological order, but like let's say they did 5 weeks. He's in 1955, like that. Like I feel they're in 1955 and he's starting to meet George McFly, and then to be like, "Hey, Eric," or they're like, "Hey, everyone in this movie, step forward." Not so fast, Eric. You know?
Yeah, he could have been black. I'll tell you that. Or it would have been like, okay, give me my money. I want all the money. I'm gonna leave. Go ahead, pick Michael J. Fox, whatever. Pick Family Ties. It is what it is. I'm gonna need all the money, and I'm gonna need the box office money. I want some residuals. And I will walk off the set. If not, I will be back at 8:00 the next day. You ain't firing me.
He'd hop in the DeLorean and be like, "I'm going home in this, and once my check clears, y'all can come pick it up."
Oh, that's lovely. All right, so obviously they casted Michael J. Fox. If you didn't know, this was like the reason Michael J. Fox is a household name. To this day, Michael J. Fox is a household name. So I thought it was important for us to talk a little bit about Michael J. Fox. Here's a fun fact. Do y'all know the movie that came out a month after Back to the Future?
I'm gonna guess Teen Wolf.
Yeah. I mean, there really is. What else was you going to guess?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that summer was like for Michael J. Fox?
Oh, it was.
He had Back to the Future, the biggest movie of the year, and then a month later, he had Teen Wolf come out, which was also a success. It was $80 million, which is great.
What do they say? The hot girl summer. He had a hot boy summer.
Can you imagine what it was like for him to go back to the set of Family Ties after having that summer?
No, he had a hot boy summer, man. He was living that life in '85.
He was like, "Yo, I can only wear sweatpants because my don't fit in these jeans no more." Oh man.
That's a good run. That's a good run, man. Back to the Future, then Teen Wolf. That's a nice run.
He also had like other successful movies coming out in the 80s and the 90s. You may remember Doc Hollywood. But the closest thing he had to Back to the Future money was Homeward Bound. If y'all remember Homeward Bound, I'm sure you do. If you remember the pop cult, he was Chance. He was the voice of Chance in Homeward Bound. Yeah. And the other closest hit he had was being the voice of Stuart Little. That made him a lot of money.
I bet them Stuart Little checks are probably really nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They were lovely. So real quick, the story around Michael J. Fox, the reason they wanted him but couldn't get him the first time was because CBS, they were like, no, we can't have, he's too important to Family Ties. He needs to be there. Like, you can't delay the filming, this, that, and the third. So when they finally got him, they had to work around Family Ties filming schedule. So Michael J. Fox was essentially working 21-hour days. Like he'd film Family Ties in the morning, in the afternoon, film Back to the Future early afternoon, evening until like 1-2 o'clock in the morning every day for like a whole summer. And so I say all that to say, like, yeah, cool, great. We got Back to the Future. Awesome. But like, y'all, was Family Ties that big of a deal? Like did they have that much pull for them to be like, no, he can't film a Robert Zemeckis movie. Like he needs to be here to do Family Ties.
You know, I've never seen Family Ties, but like I've always heard about it. I've always heard people talk about it. I've never seen one episode of Family Ties, so I really, but like this is like the 80s, dog. Like sitcoms, TV is big. Sitcoms are big, and I would think if you got a top 20 TV show, you probably got a lot of pull back in the 80s.
Okay, well, it was probably a top 20. But like, I'll tell you this, whatever Family Ties was, it wasn't Growing Pains. It wasn't Deceivers.
Yeah.
Like the Family Ties theme song went like sha-la-la-la. But Growing Pains, y'all remember the Growing Pains theme song?
Show me that smile. Show me that smile.
As long as we keep on giving, we can
joint went hard. It's like one of the greatest theme songs ever.
That song is so white, but so great.
It's the greatest white song ever.
It's so white 80s. That's what it is. It's very like white 80s. Like, and that's what makes it amazing.
Now, my guess is maybe just because essentially they had the contract first, like he signed a contract with them first, with Family Ties. And so they sort of had that leverage to be like, nah, like, you got to work around this or, whatever it is. I don't know. All I know is, he secured the bag. It was secured.
True. So I thought it would be cool to talk about a little bit of the fan theories that are out there. There's a whole bunch of fan theories. Back to the Future is, one of the greatest movies of all time. So there's a lot of fan theories out there, but I thought it'd be interesting to talk about a few of them. Really just one of them, unless y'all want to talk about any. But the one fan theory that is out there is that Doc Brown goes back a whole bunch of times because Marty dies in like several times during Back to the Future 2. So y'all remember Back to Part 2, it got a little bit real. There were guns, people getting ran over by cars. Like there was like some real life death stuff. And like in Part 1, the biggest action thing was Marty's dad punching Biff. Like besides that, like it wasn't some real life or death stuff. Back to the Future
they really
2,
turned up the violence in Part 2, man. Biff was out for blood in Part 2.
Literally. And so one of the scenes that like everyone points to as like, nah, it didn't go out like that. Like it went way too perfectly time-wise was when Marty was in the tunnel on the hoverboard, like just trying to get away from Biff when he was in the car chasing him down. And they're like, yo, how did Doc get there and throw the string down like right before Biff would have ran him over? And the theory is like, oh, because Marty got ran over and died, and Doc saw it and was like, well, I can't have that. Well, thank goodness I got a time machine. Went back in time to get right there perfectly to have Marty like life get saved. And they said, well, why was that the only time that he did that? He probably did that many times, so much so that he would have made it a point that when Marty came back from 1955 to 1985, that they would still be living in the same house, even though like all the family, everything got better. And like Marty would have like the car of his dreams. Like all the stuff would have lined up perfectly because Doc Brown just kept going back in time and changing and moving stuff around. So the outcome will go out exactly the way he wanted it. So that's like the big major theory that like Marty died a few times. And a couple other things happened and Doc Brown just kind of like Rick and Morty then was like, oh, guess I'm just going to do whatever I need to do to make it better. And like the reason I think this theory is pretty dope is because it definitely explains Rick and Morty. Like when you see Rick and Morty, you're like, yeah, I can kind of see Doc Brown being like, well, I got this time machine, so if I don't like this, I'm just going to go back in time and change it.
I agree. It had to because, yeah, he died a lot. He definitely got hit by Biff's car because his hoverboard was going 10 miles per hour tops. And what's his name? Biff had like revved the engine and yeah. So he definitely got hit there. There was no way not even old man, but like adult Biff in the future or whatever. Like when he was shooting at him, there's no way his shot was that bad. Like he got hit once or twice, or multiple times. And also the whole, hey, look over there, like, and then punches or whatever. That's only going to work so many times or like a couple times. Like there are some times in the timeline when he did that and it didn't work and he just got stabbed or something. Like,
hold on, so Shannon, you're saying we saw all the movie showed only the successful times we did it because that was his getaway thing every single time.
Yeah. And also like chicken, when they were like, oh, what are you, a chicken? I'm like, so every time he, except for what once or whatever towards the end and the last, every time he pretty much was like, nope, I'm gonna challenge this. I'm gonna do the thing. Like that's gonna get you killed. So yeah, he like some challenges you got to back down from. He didn't step up to everyone because or maybe he did and he was killed. So yeah, we had to change some of that. That's my thought. Go ahead, Mark.
I feel you.
So, man, I don't like to come hard on fan theories. I'm like, yo, as long as it can make sense, I'm cool with it. Otherwise, I can't. Nels, we had a discussion. I can't stand the fan theories like Jar Jar Binks is the Sith Lord. How? Why? Why'd that make any sense? That makes no damn sense.
That video is very compelling.
Zero sense. I hate that video. but I mean, it in theory it makes sense. I feel like let's be real. Like all time travel movies, once you like really study them, you can tear them apart. This movie is not like super scientific. You know, when you really break this movie down, you can rip it a new one. I mean, hey, I can't say I disagree with that fan. Well, I don't believe in that fan theory, but like it makes sense. I can see why people would think that. I mean, the logic's there. He's in a time machine. I don't know. I would feel like with Doc though, Doc is so like smart and methodical, even though he's like crazy. If he knew something was going to kill Marty, I don't know. I don't see Doc like attempting the same thing but different. He'd like try a whole different plan. I don't know. That's just me. That's just how I read the character Doc. But I will say,
are we watching the same Doc, Mark?
What are you talking about? You think Doc would like sacrifice Marty like that, or if he even thought that Marty could get killed, even though he has a time machine? I don't know. I don't read Doc like that. I don't see him like being like that.
Well, let's investigate that a little bit. Not to poo-poo your statement, Mark, but let's investigate that a little bit. When in Back to the Future, in the original 1985 Back to the Future, in Twin Pine Mall, when they were standing in front of the DeLorean, he put his most loved possession, Einstein, in the seat of that car. Not any other average Joe, like not a rabbit, not a monkey like we did back in the day when we put a rocket in his face. He put his best friend. Cause I mean, Marty's his homeboy, but he ain't Einstein. He put Einstein in the car, strapped him to the DeLorean, the most raggedy kind of car, even though it looks awesome, it's still a raggedy car. Then takes the remote control, puts him and Marty in front of it, and prays to God that the thing will work. Everybody was going to die. Everybody was going to die if that thing didn't work.
There's a lot of so let's if we're going to break it down, let's break it down. There's a lot of one of my favorite podcasts, We Hate Movies, said that they said that scene was actually Doc Brown's like last hope at success, and that was his. If it didn't work,
everybody gonna die.
He was like, they were like, "Yo, if this doesn't work, this is it. This is it for Doc Brown." But
it was
Doc
like
is a scientist,
an
right?
absolute win. Like an absolute win. Like if it worked, hey, it worked. If it didn't, then guess what? Like it's over. Like we all died.
Yeah.
Doc is a scientist. So I have my own theory, and I'll get into that. But Doc is a scientist. In science, it's like the step of things, right? Like look at Sputnik, and they sent dogs and chimps to outer space. Like that's like how these things work. You got to first test it, then test it on, organic life, and then human trials. And so, I mean, I get it. Einstein is his dog, but like, I don't know, maybe Doc was just like, I'm on the brink of something. He didn't think it all through. I don't know. But like, he seems like a very empathetic person is all I'm saying. And so
is it that hard to believe that if Marty got run over, that the same guy who put his dog, like the same super genius guy who put his dog in the seat of a car, I mean, like granted, he was confident. Do you think if he saw that his homeboy got run over, he was like, you know what, let me just turn this back 10 minutes real quick.
But then
go get him.
But then like, why wouldn't he be like, Marty, when you go there, go to the left side and like he's just like, try it again. We'll see what happens this time. Like, I don't know. That it's like, I think he would be like, let's try it this way now, Marty, or do this, or but hey, it's an interesting fan theory. So I will say I rewatched this movie after coming off of Tenet and Soul.
Oh,
So I kind of like had this movie from a completely different point of view. I'm kind of in the belief, and because okay, I'm gonna break it down, right? So everyone's
crazy, y'all.
no. Look. Everyone.
I'm just prepping
We
myself.
can see the look in his eyes. Mark don't usually have the look in his eyes like this. It's been a while since I've seen this look in Mark's eyes.
Everyone always brings up their relationship, right? Why is this high school kid friends with this like 60? I assume Doc's like probably in his 60s. This 60-year-old man. And they never touch on it. And John Mulaney has a great bit. Or he has a great bit about Back to the Future in general and how like this script would not fly today at all. And we could talk into some of those things later. But I was thinking about this. I'm like, yo, they never talk about Marty and Doc, right? So I think we're looking at a kind of like, I don't know what it was called, but like, you know, like, I don't know, spoilers for Futurama, but in Futurama, Fry ends up being his own grandfather, right? And so like the universe created Fry so he could be his own grandfather, and it creates a cycle. When I look at this movie, I'm like, yo, Doc is running through the motions because like because he met Marty in 1955, he then creates the time machine. So then in Hill Valley, Doc is like looking for Marty, right? He's not really disturbed, but he's like looking for Marty and finding organic ways for them to make a friendship. And so that's my theory, that like this whole thing is one big loop and Doc is in on it. I think Doc probably has the vest on the first time they're at the mall, right? And I always say I love the fact that Doc Brown is packing heat. Like and
Pea shooter.
I love he's packing heat, but like, dog, what is Doc into, dog? He's stealing plutonium for the Libyans, making like, what is this man into?
Yo, he's like your Craigslist Tony Stark. If you can't get Tony to make this rocket for you, it's like, well, what's this eccentric mad scientist doing in Cali? We threw him a couple of plutonium. You think he'd make a rocket for us?
So that's kind of like my theory. Like the only reason why the time machine exists is because Marty went back in time to start this relationship. Because Doc even says, I think he's like, I can't believe I got to wait 30 years to meet you or something like that. So that's my theory. And that's why their relationship kind of comes out of nowhere, because Doc has been looking forward to meeting Marty this whole time. And I think
definitely agree with that. I think that makes complete sense. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree. I think that's the case.
And I will say, just because you mentioned Tenet just a second ago, I know we're talking about Back to the Future, but I appreciate this so much after watching Tenet, because this made time travel seem simple. Like if anyone has seen Tenet, I was like, you don't know whether you coming or going. I was like, I guess I'll watch Tenet again in the future or the past. I don't know. But this made time travel seem so simple. Like, even though it's like, you know, when you go back, don't mess with stuff. It's going to, but I just had to say that. It's just like, after watching Tenet, I was like, okay, not Tenet, but then watching this, I was like, okay, now I understand time travel, because Tenet had me all messed up. So
that's what's up. I haven't seen Tenet yet, but I think the coolest thing about this movie is Doc Brown explains an alternate timeline by 2 lines and 10 seconds of explanation. He did a diagonal line and a horizontal line and wrote 1985A. And that was all he needed to do to explain it. That's all he needed to do to explain the alternate timeline. And all of us in our single-digit age was like, yes, that makes complete sense. Thank you.
That makes sense. Well, this is happening to your father. And then I love when he gets the newspaper. He's like, and this has happened to me, Marty. But then like, dog, it's speaking of that, that's part 2. There's something that I didn't notice to the second time around in part 2. Doc mentioned something where he's like, Marty's like, Doc, we got to go back to November. Was it 15th or 12th?
It was November 5th, 1955.
November 5th, 1955. And then when Biff takes the book back to his old self, Doc says something, and I can't believe I didn't pick up on this till I watched it like 30 years later. He's like, wow. He's like, Biff brought the book back to that moment in time. Almost like he says like maybe that date is was created by the universe, some like time roll portal. And I was like, yo, like that, like if the movie was made today, they would have really went in on that more. And I was like, damn, man, I wish they would have went in on that more. Yeah, what if like that date is like when time started, like the universe, started that date or whatever, I thought that was pretty interesting. I never noticed it to this watch around.
Yeah, that was a line where, and then he said all that, and then he was like, or it could just be a coincidence, they just brushed over and went for it. Yeah, they definitely would have went deeper today.
I could only imagine being in the movie theater and seeing the ending of part 1 with the DeLorean flying.
Yeah.
And apparently that was just kind of like a joke ending. They didn't know they were going to make sequels. Apparently they made 2 and 3 at the same time, but they didn't know they were going to make a 2 and 3. So they're like, whatever, it flies at the end. So I don't know if y'all remember, like the girlfriend, like they like ditch her in part 2. Like Doc basically throws her in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
Because
first he puts her to sleep. That was super questionable that there's a device that could just have somebody go to sleep like that. Like,
we thought 2020 was dark. Like their version of 2016 is a dark place.
Like no, like that cannot exist. Whatever that tech was cannot exist. You can't just easily get people to sleep like that. And then you just go put her on the side of the alley like that, like,
in the alley, like by the dumpster, right?
Trash.
And so apparently, because they did that, because if they knew they were going to make sequels, they wouldn't have had Jennifer, I think it's her name, Jennifer, get in the car at the end, because they kind of didn't know what to do with her. So they kind of just had to figure something out, because the original end was just a gimmick. Now, watching part 1 and part 2, if I had to redo the endings, I want to see what y'all think. If I had to redo the endings, I would make the ending of part 2 the ending of part 1. So
absolutely.
Doc sends Marty Back to the Future, and then he's like, yeah. And then all of a sudden Marty comes around the corner. Like,
that's how you end part 1.
Yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have been an awesome ending.
I would argue the best ending out of all 3 of the movies.
Yeah.
When Marty comes running back.
That's probably I agree with you now. That's probably the best out of all 3.
I mean, it really showed that they didn't know what to do with her, because like basically through all of part 2, she was passed out. Like basically, like there was a couple lines she had, and then it was like 2 or 3 different times. It was like, I don't know what else to make you do. Just go to sleep. And then like there was so that like really showed. It wasn't even sort of like her lines weren't that good. It was just like I got no clue what to do. Just like
I don't know. Damn it, Marty, why'd you bring her?
If this movie wasn't that big, I wonder if Elizabeth Shue would even claim that she was in Back to the Future. Like, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. So she got to like, I'm a part of that. Like, so what were you doing? Oh, well, I'm the reason we know what happened to the future McFly family. And yep. And what'd you do in the third one? Oh, I was asleep on the porch. And then there was a race. I was in like 5 minutes of it. Like this Elizabeth Shue, y'all. Like, wasn't she in Adventures in Babysitting?
Yeah.
Like she had a good time in the 80s.
She was big. Yeah, she was big in the 80s. I mean, but yeah, when Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg come calling, dog, if they want you to hold,
what are you gonna say?
Yeah, what are you gonna say? If they want you to hold the door open, like, you go do it. So.
So we're going to move on. We've already talked about a number of moments and scenes in these movies, and clearly, if it wasn't obvious, we love Back to the Future. So I'm curious, fellas, what are some of your favorite moments and scenes from Back to the Future?
Let's talk about this movie through the eyes of 2021, right? There are a lot of questionable things in this movie. Mm-hmm. One, the whole incest thing.
Yes,
going on.
The Oedipus complex that happened in the first one.
Marty McFly, like, super Oedipus, but I think you can do the whole, oh no, I accidentally broke my parents up and my mom's into me. I think there's a safe way to do that. But Nels, I don't know if you remember this. You and I were watching this movie one time together, and we were sitting down, and it was the part where Marty's supposed to be with his mom and George is supposed to show up, and Marty's all nervous, and I was just like, yo, oh shit. And you're like, what? I was like, dog, I always thought this movie was like, you remember this? You remember this?
Yes.
I was like, dog, I always thought like he was just mad nervous because his mom was coming onto him. But he is nervous because he thinks he's going to give into it. And it's like, I just blew my mind.
This is what Mark said. He's like, yo, what if Biff didn't come? And what if the dad didn't show up? What if Marty was just stuck in the car with his mom? You think he would smash? And I was like, Mark, no. He's like, look again. He's like, look at Marty in the car. He's like, look at that kind of nervous that he's in. That's not the, oh no, this is an awkward situation. This is oh man, I'm really nervous because there's a hot girl in the car with me.
Yes, man. He is like, I don't have much time left. Hurry up, George. Nervous. You know what I'm saying?
The 50s were a wild time.
No, the 80s. And then John Mulaney.
That was in the
80s. The movie came out, but John Mulaney has a great bit about like all that stuff.
We thought, that it would be fun for people if the boy, he went back in time and he tried to fuck his mom. We thought that would be fun. And then, but don't worry, he doesn't get to fuck the mom because this family friend named Biff shows up and he tries to rape the mom, in front of the son. And then the dad, he has to beat the rapist off of her. And we're also gonna say that a white man wrote Johnny Be Good, so we're gonna take that away from them.
But yeah, like who greenlit this at Universal? It's like, so he's into his mom, eh?
See, well, I would argue like that was part of the reason Robert Zemeckis had to make a couple movies to convince Universal that he could do this. Steven Spielberg was still a little like, I don't know about that one, but whatever, Robert Zemeckis. You're Robert Zemeckis.
And then the other thing I just want to bring up that's kind of like, odds of 2020, when they come back, like, so when Biff is in the car with Lorraine, like, that is going to turn into a full-on, like, sexual assault. Like, that's no, like, you're going to be more, like, that turns into an episode of CSI real quick, right?
Biff should have caught 7 Me Too's. Like, Biff got Me Too. He should have caught 7 Me Too's during this thing. Yeah.
That was Harvey Weinstein's first, like, try at being a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
But, like... So it got really serious because, like, and again, watching this when George opens the door, Lorraine's like, George, help me. She's not like, she's like scared. And then so the movie happens and we go back to 1985 and Biff's at the McFly house. I'm like, wait a minute. You keep your wife's sexual assaulter around the house to do odd jobs for you?
Which is troubling unless like, you really have punked the hell out of Biff because you are that you feel that good about yourself and how you can handle this man.
But how does Lorraine feel about that shit?
Well, she can't feel good unless she has seen her man perpetually punk Biff to the point that he has been withered down to like nothing. And we know that's not the case because when we go to 2015, he's still got enough comeuppance to get into a time machine going back to 1955 to convince his younger self to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was really reckless. I agree. It was
1955, and like even if like that whole scene went down and Lorraine went to the cops, they probably would have told Biff to knock it off.
Yeah.
It was 1955, so who are we kidding?
Terrible.
So
Terrible.
Yeah.
The other thing we talked about, the sleeping machine. That's a no. There can't be no sleeping machine. I don't care for what. No, unless you are a trained anesthesiologist, there is no reason you should have the access to that technology. I refuse. No sleepy machine.
Yeah, definitely not. I think the other wild thing is we sort of talk about some of those. Well, I guess it's moments, but even just overall. So for me, just the DeLorean, the DeLorean overall, like it looks so fly, but it was mentioned earlier, like the DeLorean was a horrible car. Like it, like I looked up some stuff. It got 18 to 20 miles per gallon, which like a Hummer, whatever model of Hummer, a Hummer gets somewhere between 10 and 18. So like this was getting 18 to 20.
Damn.
Like
wow.
So and I know this is like random, but I was like a lot of stuff. For some reason, just something about the DeLorean just really stood out to me. Like aside from just even the look,
because you like cars, Shannon. This is the little kid that bought the Max Rider toy because he could get a motorcycle with it. You like cars, Shannon. That's why.
So I even ended up looking up the company. So the company who created DeLoreans, the DMC, DeLorean Motor Company, their founder, I think his name was John DeLorean. So their company only lasted for about 8 years, but about 7 or 8 years. And then also dude was arrested and charged with conspiracy to distribute 55 pounds of coke. So basically he was trying to bankroll this whole like drug trafficking thing. Like the dude who was the founder of DMC, DeLorean Motor Company. So I'm like, as wild as it is, I'm like DeLorean, it's like it was famous because of Back to the Future, but so I'm like he was trying to bankroll the I guess putting drugs into the US and destroying the culture. I don't know.
Shannon, the dude who made the DeLorean was a coke dealer. You telling me the dude who made so he took the product. The DeLorean was created by a dude who was on coke. That makes sense.
Had to.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Like he had to be using
and it's gonna and the doors are gonna fly up like that. It's gonna go down. It's gonna look like a spaceship. It's gonna be the coolest thing in the street.
And the door's gonna come up.
This is gonna be a sports car, right? But it can go as fast as 95 miles per hour. That fast. Like what?
It's gonna be a slow sports car, so you can see where it's going.
Dog, I had a 4-cylinder Ford Explorer stick shift that went 95 miles per hour.
I had a 94 Ford Taurus, and I still remember like that thing had 85 on the dash. I was like 85 on the dash. So I was like, if I had a flux capacitor and if I was going downhill, of course I could have went back in time, but only if I was going downhill, because that's the only way it's going to reach 88 miles per hour.
My 1992 Toyota Tercel could outdrive the DeLorean. That is amazing.
Yeah, I think it was just a very 80s car. They're like, what's the most 80s thing we can put in this movie? And like that, because I don't know what other car you use for the time machine.
I mean, well, it was originally supposed to be a fridge, and Coca-Cola was supposed to be the magic ingredient.
Really?
Or like the flux capacitor was essentially supposed to be Coca-Cola. And the fridge was going to be the time machine.
I'm glad they went with the DeLorean.
Someone was like, why don't we use a DeLorean? Because, a DeLorean looks like a time machine. So there you go.
And the whole 88 miles per hour, they're just like what a like nice, it just fits so well. But damn, Coke machine.
I do like how they got eco-friendly. Like by part 2, they're like, oh, you just put like compost and
yeah, they did.
I was like, oh, they did.
All right, we're gonna jump into scenes.
Part 1, I feel like my favorite scene, and this reminds me of that so much. So my favorite scene was when he was doing the whole dance and everything, when he was performing. So like, doing the most on the guitar and everything with the band.
The Chuck Berry.
The Chuck Berry. the pre-appropriation, I guess is that's what we want to call it.
Yeah.
But what makes me laugh so hard is because I see that and I constantly think of remember Hurricane Chris, "Hey Baby," that song. So
Hey, baby.
if you listen to the lyrics of "Hey Baby," you were like, Hurricane Chris was doing entirely too much in the club. Like he was rolling around on the floor, he taking pictures with the DJ, he got his shirt off and this and that. And I'm like, that's what Marty McFly was doing. He was like with the whole guitar behind his head, sliding on the floor. I was like, that was a precursor to "Hey Baby." He like, bro, you just doing too much. But I love it.
Yes.
That's like, it just makes me. That's like one of my favorite scenes in part one.
Can we talk about this appropriation real quick?
Yes. Can we? Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
So I have a question, y'all. Is it really appropriation? And I asked this question for this. We all know that Chuck Berry created rock and roll, which, funny enough, is pretty progressive. In 1985, it's progressive that they name that Chuck Berry discovered this new sound because people were still saying that white folks created rock and roll. I digress. We also know that white folks appropriated everything that is Chuck Berry into rock and roll, which is why Elvis Presley is praised the way that he is. But according to this movie, Chuck Berry got all this from a white guy who was performing at a high school dance. So did Chuck Berry appropriate rock and roll from a white person?
That's what I'm saying. That's why this movie is like extra.
And
atrocious.
then it got reappropriated back to white people?
Because according to the science, Marty McFly, white boy, created rock and roll, and then Chuck Berry stole it from him.
Ray Parker Jr. did.
Exactly. He stole it from him. So it's like, what are we talking about here? Like, I get what you're, I mean, we all joke about it, but I'm not going to lie. Like, that was such a good little scene. He's like, it's your cousin, Marvin Berry. Like, that's a good scene. I've seen that scene parodied so many times, but yeah, like, what are we doing here, movie? Like, so what? The black man stole the stolen. It's like Inception. There's so many levels to this joint. Like Marty McFly incepted black culture.
It's amazing. Well, this question will not get answered. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Shannon, sorry. Please continue.
No, that was it. I mean, that's like my favorite part from or favorite scene from part one. Part two, honestly, I mean, it's simple. Part two, I think for me, my favorite parts were basically anything that involved a hoverboard. I just love like the hoverboard from him, even like going over the water, all the stuff that happened, the chase and everything, as he was trying to get the magazine, and even the stuff where he was going against Biff and everything, trying to get the magazine, in which, as it's been discussed, he died at least once or twice. But we digress. But yeah, I would say pretty much anything with a hoverboard, like some of my favorite scenes in part two.
Hoverboards don't go over water unless you got power.
Shannon, I can do mine. Shannon, you named one of my favorite scenes, which is the hoverboard. Anything hoverboard related were like my favorite scenes. I fully agree. My favorite line in the movie is,
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
the reason it's my favorite is because like that line, the way that Michael J. Fox delivers it is the reason he's a movie star. Like it's like his comedic timing is so fantastic. And it's super Michael J. Fox-ish. Like how he says it's like out of a DeLorean. Like it just reminds me of the 80s childhood movies, like fantasy, like everything that is watching movies is when he delivers that line in the beginning of the Back to the Future.
Yeah, you're right. No, there's some great line reads in this whole series. Like, because then even that line, he's like, a DeLorean, Doc? And then Doc's like, well, if you're going to make a time machine, you better do it with some style.
Yeah. And then I would say out of all, and this is, I don't know what you could judge me. I can understand. Out of all the movies, my favorite scene is the dad punching Biff. There is so much satisfaction when he looks down and gives him like an amazing haymaker that has the man do a 360 spin and drop. Like it is kind of like watching Game of Thrones where Joffrey is choking like the Purple Wedding. Spoilers if you haven't gotten to that part of Game of Thrones. Sorry. It's been a few years now. I digress. But like it's the same satisfaction of just watching Biff get his and raping not happening in the movie. Like it is lovely. So that's my all-time favorite scene in Back to the Future.
So I got a couple scenes. I want to try to run through these quick. So just full disclosure, I owned these movies growing up, watched them constantly. Me and my brother loved Back to the Future. So like I've probably seen at least 1 and 2 in their entirety, like at least more than 15 times to 20 times, like front to back. But I will say now that I'm creeping into middle age, dog, the McFly dinner in the beginning of part 1 is like nightmare fuel for me. Like I just that scene hits so differently now. Like George is just such a loser. And he's doing that stupid laugh watching TV, and then Lorraine's like, he's like, and then Lorraine's like, and I knew I'd spend the rest of my life with him, and she just looks like she's like dying on the inside. I'm like, dog, I hope my family never looks at me this way. Like that scene just hits very different now. But I'm with you, Nels. There's so many good like line reads in this movie. One of my favorite, and like anytime I can like throw it into like conversations. One of my favorite moments in this in part 1 is when Marty finds Doc in 1955 and he's like, he convinces him he's from the future and he's showing him the tape. And he's like, what did I say there? And like Marty goes back and he's like,
Whoa, this is it. This is the part coming up, Doc.
No. This sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
What did I just say?
The flux capacitor stores. This sucker's electrical. But I need a nuclear reaction to generate the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity.
1.21 gigawatts!
1.21 gigawatts! Great Scott!
What the hell is a gigawatt?
the hell is a gigawatt? God. No, I love it because like, and then Doc's like, he's like, I'm sorry, Marty, you're stuck. he's like, I was a fool. He's like, why would I mess with such power?
And then after that, he's like, we just need to get plutonium. He's like, well, I'm sure in 1985 you could just get plutonium on the side of the street, but in 1955. Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know. That cracks me up every time I see it, man. Doc just looks like he like saw a ghost, man. Like it's great. But another little scene I love is when Marty is it's not even big. It's a little line read when Marty sees his dad in the diner, and then Biff like harasses his dad, and then they leave, and then Marty's looking around for his dad. And you see the camera stays in the diner, and you see Marty go outside. He's like, Dad, George, wait up! And he runs after him. But I love the line where Marty's trying to get George to like talk to his mom, and he's like, get your damn hands off of her. And he's like, do I have to cuss? He's like, yes, George, goddamn it, cuss. He's like, you can just hear the frustration in Marty's voice. He's like, I can't believe this is my father, man. And then the last, I mean, there's so many things like I'm gonna forget about part 1, but I will say, and it's down to like, it's just because this movie it's just such good movie making. Dog, the last like couple minutes where they're trying to send Marty back to the future, and like the cable comes undone, and Marty can't get the time machine to start. I've seen this movie so many times, and every time I'm always like, "Oh shit, is he gonna make it?" Like, like is he? You know, it's
like
just
still. This movie's been out for 35 years, and I'm still like, I don't know, man.
I don't know.
It's kind of a little close.
Still to this day,
too late.
Yeah, still to this day. You know, so but yeah, man. As a part one goes, those are like some of my favorite moments.
So something that jumped out to me in part one, and I mean, I think I know why it makes sense now because, but I was like, okay, the movie is rated PG. I was like, bro, there was a lot of profanity in this movie, but what it's because I think the PG-13 rating came out in like it existed like in '85, but it wasn't really incorporated like because this was PG, but before they were really doing PG-13.
Because the first the movies that created PG-13, I think it was like Temple of Doom and Gremlins. Yeah. So I don't know, like maybe this was in production or, you know, I don't know if they got the ball really rolling on PG-13. But I'm sure if we look it up, we can see what the first PG-13 rated
Red
movie
Dawn.
is. But yeah, man.
Red Dawn was the first PG-13 movie.
Oh,
yeah, 1984. Patrick Swayze.
Wow. Yeah.
Who knew?
But yeah, I was like so surprised because like, you know, today a PG movie, like I feel like just having a human in a movie makes it PG. And like that's already they don't even say a word. It's like, okay, a human's in this, it's rated PG. Like exactly. And much less like if they even want to try to kiss somebody or you know, say anything like ass or something like that. It's like, okay, now it's PG-13. But like this, I was like, bro, they were going off, and I'm like, this is still PG. Like,
no, Shannon, you make a good point because like in the beginning, I forgot, but like Doc gets lit up like Alex Murphy in RoboCop.
Yeah,
by the Libyans, dog. Like it's not just like what it's like 30 shots.
Mark, it's not like Alex Murphy in RoboCop. you may have forgot what happened to poor Alex Murphy in RoboCop. Maybe the first 5 seconds of Alex Murphy's murder, but not like Alex Murphy in RoboCop. But I'm sorry, please continue.
They were ruthless. Yeah. But yeah, that was just like that stood out to me. I was like, oh, dang. But then like you said, yeah, I looked it up and I was like, okay, so PG-13 was like 85. This came out in 85, so they probably weren't really knowing how to, you know, put it yet or whatever. But yeah.
I mean, when he says this is going to be some serious shit, I'm like, are you sure this is PG?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That right there is an instant 13 next to it.
Like, and you got humans? Yeah, this PG-13.
All right. So we talked about our scenes. The next question is, what did this movie mean to you then? And what does it mean to you now?
This was me and my brother's like franchise. Like this was the one franchise we both could agree on, no questions asked. Like we both kind of like, you know, we had our franchises that we liked, but this was like, you know, Back to the Future. Like, I think our toys of the DeLorean are still at my parents' house to this day. We had a little DeLorean toy that we actually got from Universal Studios. We went to Universal Studios and my mom was like, what do you guys want to ride first? Back to the Future. Went straight to the Back to the Future ride, 2-hour wait. Did not care. That was the first thing we were going to ride was Back to the Future. We took a picture next to the DeLorean, and then my mom bought my brother this little toy DeLorean, and it would, I think, like it would say something about. I think Doc's voice or Marty's voice came out of it, and then the little wheels would come up, and then it would spin around. But love this movie. Was so excited when it came out on DVD. I think we were in college or high school. Had the Blu-rays for a while, sold them. I got rid of a bunch of my like physical media, but it's one of those, I've said it before, if it's on TV and I catch it, no matter where I'm at, this is the rest of my afternoon watching the rest of Back to the Future. Like you said, Nels, this is the barometer. Like, do you like there's 2 types of people in this world. People who like Back to the Future and people who don't like Back to the Future. People who like Animaniacs and people who don't like Animaniacs.
Yep.
You know? but I think, like I said, even now looking back at it, this is a pretty surface level movie for me when I was younger. I didn't really dwell into it. I didn't really like think about fan theories. I just enjoyed the movie for what it was on the surface. But like Shannon, like you said, now after watching like Tenet and all these other time travel movies and like really thinking about it, I'm thinking about the movie on a different level. Theories and enjoying it on a whole different basis. I know there's been a lot of talk about like a remake or a sequel. I personally don't want one. I think if this comes back, this franchise needs to be a TV show. I think that's how you get the most out of Back to the Future. Make it a Netflix or like a Hulu TV show. I think that like basically make it like a fun Doctor Who. I'm not saying Doctor Who's not fun. I'm just saying make it like a more like pop culture-y, hip kind of Doctor Who.
There's like a tenth of our fan base being like, "What is he talking about? What is he talking about?"
Yeah, I don't really remember. Yeah, like when I first saw it, I think Nielsen mentioned that too. I was like, I really don't remember when I first saw it, but I do remember in terms of later as I did get to finally see all the movies and and just everything that existed from it. I mean, for me, I feel like it set the bar for like time travel, like because now I feel like everything is sort of time travel. Sort of in relation to this. And I mean, I say that in terms of if time travel happens in a movie, you're like, okay, so this is how it's different than they would do in Back to the Future. Like, this is the way time, because even like, say you watch Tenet, you're like, oh, that's more complicated than how they did it in Back to the Future. Or if you watch, something else, you're like, oh, that's easier than how they did it in Back to the Future. So I feel like it set that bar of like what time travel means in a movie. And it's even been referenced in movies because was it in Avengers Endgame? Didn't they make like a comment about Back to the Future when they were going through time?
They were constantly saying like time travel doesn't work like Back to the Future because that was the definition for everybody.
I think even Ant-Man's like, he's like, so what? Back to the Future is bullshit? Like, that was
exactly.
everyone. That was groups of scientists. These are like quantum physics scientists. They've seen space aliens. They fight interdimensional stuff, and they're like, wait a minute. It's not like Back to the Future.
We gotta remember, y'all. Like in the movie, Paul Rudd has a master's degree in physics. Yes, he's a funny comedic guy, but he has a master's degree in physics, and he's like, it doesn't work like Back to the Future. So
that's what I'm saying. It's like that sets the bar for what time travel is, and everything else is just in relation to that. It's like it, it's not like it. It's more complicated. It's easier. It set the bar for time travel. Everything that deals with time travel is in relation, I feel like, to Back to the Future. It's easy. It's more complicated, whatever it might be.
Obviously, I like Back to the Future. No. I love Back to the Future. My struggle with Back to the Future is that Back to the Future to me is like water. Like you need it. And it's kind of hard to talk about the greatness of water because we have it. It exists. But if you really think about water, like if we didn't have water, then you would realize how great and amazing water is as a property. That's how I feel about Back to the Future. It's just a thing that you have to have. It is a basis of movie watching. Like I think it's movies 101. If you're going to watch movies, it needs to be a movie that you watch. It absolutely has to be one of your first movies that you watch. I'm going to say this, and it's going to be on the internet forever. There's only a few movies I would ever say this, but Back to the Future is a perfect movie. It is a perfect movie.
I kind of agree with you too.
I would only say it about maybe 3 or 4 movies, but to me, Back to the Future is a perfect movie.
Start to finish, plot, character. Yeah, it's kind of like it's kind of like the perfect. It's the perfect meal. It's like you eat it, you're satisfied. You're not still hungry. You're not overstuffed. You're good.
That is what it meant to me then. Like it is, and what it means to me now. It is legit the question I ask people. Like if you've met me, if you ever talk to me, and we're talking pop culture, my first question is going to be, have you seen Back to the Future? And that will determine where the conversation goes. If you say no, I say why. It's like,
Yeah.
well, tell me why you haven't seen Back to the Future. Oh, grew up in a household without a TV. Makes complete sense. You need to watch Back to the Future. Oh, I'm not really into that stuff. We don't really got to talk about movies anymore then. Like let's talk about other stuff, because like the conversation will end there, because Back to the Future is a necessity. You have to watch it.
Yeah.
Why watch movies if you don't watch one of the greatest movies of all time that everyone loves? My wife and I talked for 10 minutes about Back to the Future. My wife is not really a movie head like that, but she will talk to 10 minutes about Back to the Future because it's Back to the Future. She loves this movie. Everyone loves this movie. So, I mean, yeah, man, what can I say that hasn't been said? It's a perfect movie. It's legit a perfect movie.
It's definitely one of those things that like I assume everyone has seen it. It's like how you assume everyone knows who Michael Jackson is, you know, like it's just one of those things. Like you're alive, you have eyes, you're not blind. You obviously seen Back to the Future, right? So I'm with you. Like I just assume everyone I come in contact with has watched this movie.
And actually, I will double down how much this movie has meant to me, and I will say to us. Mark, if you remember, the birthday party we celebrated in 2015 was a Back to the Future themed birthday.
It was.
Everything in relation to the party was in reference to Back to the Future. That's how much Back to the Future means to me. Like the hoverboard, like all the lines, all the stuff. Like it is. Yeah. What else can I say? It's a dope movie.
You know, I don't know what it is with Marty McFly and terrorizing black people, but it was just funny in part 2. And I'm kind of pissed off at the movie because it's like, oh, now Hill Valley is this wasteland of America, so now a black family lives there, you know, and I don't know what the movie's trying to say there, but like I definitely love that scene where like Marty walks into the house and the dad's like, but they're even the dad talks like he's from the city. He's like, I will get you, sucker. You know, but I'm like, damn, Marty, first you still rock and roll, and then you just terrorize this poor black family.
And he really thought his privilege was going to get him out of it. Like, hey, I'm just in the wrong house. Like it was an accident. He swore his privilege was going to get him out of it.
Dog, I'm glad you said that because that's actually one of my notes I wrote. Like Marty McFly is like the definition of white privilege. The fact that he just walked into someone's house. He's like, hey man, it's cool. I'm just in the wrong house.
Yeah. I just jumped into your teenage daughter's bed in the middle of the night. It's okay.
Another note of Marty McFly's white privilege, right? And I hate to be that guy, but I just can't help noticing these things now. When in the first scene of the movie, when all the clocks go off and Doc calls him, Doc calls him, and he says something. He's like, "Oh, Marty, all those clocks are 25 minutes slow or whatever." And Marty's like, "Doc, are you telling me that it's 8:25? I'm late for school." I'm like, "Yo, how much
that was your first time?
How much privilege do you have to like just walk around and not know what the time is and just walk around and exist?" I'm like, dog, that is white privilege right there. I don't know what time it is. I'm just walking up into people's houses and life will direct me where I need to be.
Another crazy thing about the movie is, if you remember, the dad says, tell at the end when Michael J. Fox is running out of the house, he says, tell the realty company I ain't gonna be terrorized. And I'm like, there's gentrification in this movie. Yes. Like they're trying to buy up the neighborhood.
Yeah. I was questioning the 50s because I'm like, I guess it's like they don't want to make people too sad or whatever. Like in terms of the movie, I was like, even though like you can clearly see like there aren't really mixed friend groups, but I'm also like, we even have black people and white people in the same space. I'm like, I don't think that's very true to the 50s. Like I didn't see a whites only water fountain or anything like that. Maybe they're like, we're not trying to be too real.
Well,
Well,
also,
it is
I don't know
California.
where Hill Valley is.
Hill Valley's in California.
Oh, it was Cali.
Yeah.
Okay.
But black folks were in services. They were doing service jobs.
Oh yeah. They did show that now.
Yeah.
And then when Biff's crew throws Marty in the trunk, the one guy definitely calls the guy a spook.
Yeah, definitely racial slurs being thrown.
And he insinuates that they smoking reefer.
Yeah. I don't mess with no reefer addicts. This was back when they had those PSAs about reefer madness.
Oh yeah, good old days. Gentlemen, this leads to the question, the pop call question. We all have children. We all have young ones. And so the question is this. Well, I'm assuming I'm going to answer part of the question, which is like, are you going to show this movie to your kids? I actually like your children. So I'm assuming you all are going to show this movie to your kids. So the question is like, when and how? How are you going to introduce Back to the Future to your children?
I think I might have to do it, in pieces. And I say that because I imagine the very first thing I'm going to do is going to be showing Luke the DeLorean, the car, because he loves cars, trucks.
I wonder where he got that from.
I know, right? But yeah, so I mean, yeah, he loves cars. So I mean, it's definitely going to be that, like so I'm going to be like, boom, here's a gray car. Okay, boom. This gray car is the DeLorean. It opens doors, like, because he already loves all the things. He was like, this horn, he'll be like, this horn, or this car, the horn might be, this car might have wipers. Like he does that. So I'm sure when I open the doors, that's going to blow his mind. So it's going to be introducing the DeLorean to him. He's going to love that toy car. And then, I'm guessing, who knows, maybe when he's, just because it is so much, it curses so much in it, maybe when he's, I don't know, 6, I don't know, 5, 6, I don't know, who knows, in terms of the movie, getting him to watch the movie. But definitely the car, no problem. And then somehow he'll be interested soon and we'll see the movie.
Shannon, maybe because you're more mature than I am, I appreciate you waiting until 6. Ian has seen all the Back to the Futures already.
Wow.
When I was watching it, he was watching it. And that wasn't the original part of the plan. So, like, Ian was supposed to be doing his lessons, reading his books. And as we were doing that, I was like, oh, Back to the Future is having a marathon. We're going to watch it right now. And it started off like, he'll come by, he'll watch a scene and he'll go away. And then after like the third time of him doing that, he sat down next to me and didn't get up. Like, he was glued to Back to the Future. He loved it. And like, I could tell he loved it because like, he wasn't asking me questions. Usually like, he's Ian's 3. What that? Who that? Where's that? What's that? Who that? Like, that's the constant soundtrack of my day. But Back to the Future, it was, wow, ooh, cool, yay, no. Like, that's what he was saying the whole time. No ifs, ands, or buts, though. His favorite one was 2. Like, part 2, he was jumping on the couch. Like, he loved part 2. Now, yes, I know what y'all are thinking. We were just spending a good amount of time saying how these movies should be PG-13, and I let my 3-year-old son watch this movie. Yes, you can judge. That wasn't the original part of the plan. I think if I was able to think about this more, it would definitely be like what Shannon said, 6, maybe even 7 or 8. Right when like his brain is at a place where he's like really thinking about like questions like science fiction type questions, like, oh, I wonder if there's like a way to travel in time, and I wonder if there's a way to teleport, like those type of things. That like this would like really hit it off with them. So probably the next time he'll watch it will be like right around that time, right when he's starting to ask those questions or be interested in stuff like that. Give him Back to the Future, have his life be changed, and And then he can say something funny like, well, actually, the first time I watched this, I was 3 years old. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna reintroduce it to him.
Dog, that's awesome. That's all. I just can't wait for Ian to be like, what the hell's a gigawatt? But yeah, no. I think this is a movie I'm really gonna have to check myself and make sure I show it to my kids, because like it's just one of those movies that I assume everyone's gonna see, and I feel like in the back of my mind I assume my daughter's gonna see it on their own. I feel like when I show it to them, it will probably be like that kind of like 6, 7, 8-year-old age, and I feel like it's gonna be during like a holiday or like a holiday break. It's gonna be like Thanksgiving or Christmas, and we're waiting for something to finish cooking, and this is on TV, or I'm scrolling through Hulu or Netflix or something. I feel like it's just going to be one of those type of like things where we're already sitting down, and I'm like, oh, y'all seen Back to the Future? We watching Back to the Future, and I hope they like it, because if they don't, oh my God, I don't know.
They don't have a choice. Their last name is Jones. They're not like Back to the Future.
I love this movie, Daddy. My favorite.
Well, gentlemen, that is it. Any other last things about Back to the Future before we wrap up?
And then, I will say also, these movies do hit differently living in a post Rick and Morty world.
Yes.
Like there was moments where Doc was interacting with Marty, and it wasn't even funny, but it would make me laugh, because I was like, I could see how Rick and Morty would take this situation, and it would just go completely left field, and it would turn up to 11. So like, yeah, after Rick and Morty, this whole series hits very differently.
It's crazy how watching this, I appreciate Rick and Morty more, but I also appreciate Back to the Future more. Like they really work well, parallels off of each other. Like it's not like I'm bashing one for the other. I'm appreciating both of them more as like I'm refamiliarizing myself with Back to the Future. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for listening. We have a new episode every month or so. Find us on all social media at PopCultParent, PopCultParent. You can email us at popcultparent@gmail.com. Don't forget to rate us, review, and subscribe. And as always, join the cult. Peace.